Good evening. This is the Elliott wave update for the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500 for Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. Well, Tesla's earnings have just come out, and while I guess they weren't as bad as what maybe many people were expecting, they are bringing the stock higher, and I can tell you where it stands right now. Right now, it's trading 154. 60 to 154.70 up to 155. I've seen it as high as 156 and as low as 148. So it's got a little bit of a range. But the numbers are up. So Tesla, done. We'll see what the market wants to do. I personally, I have not read it or heard anything about whether the board or shareholders are going to approve of Elon Musk's thoughts on receiving that $56 billion back. Not sure. In any case, if they've rejected all that, then maybe, yeah, that would be a reason to buy the stock. But we'll see. So again, not trying to interpret the earnings, whether they were good or bad. I'm just going to place it into the NASDAQ and the S&P and see what we come up with today. Starting here on the NASDAQ, I'm looking at the 4-hour chart. Keeping in line with what I'm continuing to use as front and center is the count that continues to suggest that the highs are in at 18,709. And so we're in the beginning stages of a primary C wave down. And inside that primary C wave, we will get 5 waves of intermediate degree, and we're breaking it all the way down to the very first minor wave 1. And so within that, I am counting on a minute level, and I have minute wave 1, 2. I've switched it around just a little bit because I was looking for another leg down, didn't get it, went back onto the inside and thought, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put my minute 3 here. Still nicely extended. And then here, what we have is an A, B, and then 1, 2, 3, or maybe 3, 4, and a 5, or we still have a little 4 and then a 5 to do. Or it's all done, A, B, C, and we put a 4 up here. The next resistance level on a Fibonacci basis for that fourth wave is 17,816. I actually really don't want to see it try to pop above the 4-hour 50 moving average, which sits at 17,691. So we've gotten as high as 17,660, and that was on the initial whatever. It kind of just went there, and then they brought it all the way back down. And now they're trying to get back up to it. So again, a lot of this is all rolling around Tesla's earnings, and of course it starts to have an overflow where anything else possibly within the Mag 7 kind of gets pushed around a little bit, and the ETFs get pushed, anything that Tesla sits in. So we'll let that come and go as it is. And so on this, it's a third wave. We're looking for a fourth, and then still a leg down for a fifth, and then that would be a minor 1. All of the moving averages continue, at least the 4-hour and up, continue to basically point lower. We are getting the 13 and the 20 to begin to turn. The 50 is starting to turn because of the 2 days of fairly solid reversal and flows presenting a more bullish picture for equities. And what I mean by that is because of the options flow, the hedges are buying the underlying. So, and the volatility play continued today, where we saw them selling the VIX. And then what they took the money and then they went and they bought the volatility within the underlying component stocks. So that continued pretty much today. And again, we saw it in the Mag 7, most notably as a trader of the NASDAQ. And that came in via NVIDIA, Netflix, Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon, Apple. And of course, we have to include AMD, and you got to include, the other stocks within it, AMAT, that all basically caught pretty strong bids today. There was very few things that were down. Now, I believe Google, it's not here, but it's like I'd be watching for Google to see how they come out here. No, I didn't want to buy Google. Thank you. But the next ones that are due, we have Amazon on the 30th, which is next week. Apple is the second. I know we have additional ones coming. Meta is tomorrow. So I think Meta and Microsoft are both tomorrow. No, Microsoft is Thursday. So Meta is tomorrow. We'll see. And I know there's somebody else too. So there's a lot that's going to start coming out. But out of our bigger ones, then, you know, the anticipated move in Meta could be pretty spectacular, being that it got knocked down real hard last week, partially because they were basing it on some silly news about Apple and Meta and China. So regardless, inside the market, I am looking at what I just presented. Now, the other side of this is that this wave 3 completion point here was actually the completion point for minor 4. And then this would be A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C, minor 4. And what we've got now coming out of that is 1, 2, 1, 2. And this is the third. Now, what could that be representing? Well, I'm just going to take off this, and now we got to go into a little bit different view, and we're going to go pull up. Let me do it this way. And I got to go, yeah, there we go. I'm going to go grab wave 1 and to wave 4. And now we can get our first glimpses at what, all right, I'll just try that, bring it down, or actually just open it. And we're almost there. So this low is 17,113. Activate. There we go. So our first leg up, or our first fib, is 18,369 for minor wave 5. And so the 100%, which is the most common, is 19,146. Now you're talking about, okay, can the market go to new all-time highs? Yeah, it can. It can if you're counting it in that particular fashion. Now, there are other things that may determine that coming down the road. But right now, I have to include it as a possibility. Now, also what you can do is we pull the numbers back out, open the chart up, and we start looking at where we might find support here if it continues to drop. We did have that level down here. First, we have 17,000. And so as a nice big round number, and then we drop below and it's 16,935, and then we're dropping all the way down into here, which is 16,573, and that's all off of the 4-hour chart. So those are possibilities if we continue to find something that is displeasing or something that upsets this earnings apple cart. So that remains out there as well. But it would be, again, a quick turn and a severe turn. That in and of itself, you look at the vertical nature that we've gone the last 2 days, and it begins to present a little bit more of a challenge. But then again, it can turn on a dime and go, turn and go. And so we're seeing both sides, and there they are. And what would have to continue, we need to get above that 50, number one, and we need to do it in high style. In other words, go through it, come back, maybe test it, and then run. And so the whole process needs to continue to move higher. And yep, we're going to get pullbacks, but they should fall in line with, if I'm coming down and I'm going to look at the hourly chart, and we're coming in here, and we're saying 1, 2, 1, 2. And if this completed the third, which it may, then you can run quick fibs from there to there. And come on. And then we're looking for maybe a 382 pullback down to 517, if, right? And that would be fitting for continuation of an upside move. And then once that's done, you can add 1 to 5 and you can get your upside and then start to get confirmation. So once again, it's a break above this 1 hour 200 as well at 17,707 that starts to tilt this thing away from that it is a continuation. And this is a 4 and we're going to drop rather than this is the 4 and this is the start of minor 5. Over in the S&P, it basically is the same picture, a little bit different here, but the same message. So here we are leaving it as is in terms of that the highs are in. Then it's minute 1, minute 2. I moved it around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, minute wave 3, and this is minute wave 4. We were held basically at the 382 for much of today. We broke late and then stayed well above and started working our way first above the 1 hour 200. That in and of itself tilts the scale on the hourly chart. If I move it out to the 4-hour chart and we open it up and look at the same thing, we're just surpassing the 50. And so still kind of delivering the same message, but the 200 on the 4-hour chart sits much higher at 51.64. So I'm allowing for a fourth wave. In other words, an A, a B, 1, 2, 3, and then a 4 and a 5, maybe to 51.24. So we pull back and then we run again, but it's held at 51.24. And that would be 50%, and that still could be a fourth wave. And then we get something that's going to drive the market lower. And being that we sit in the middle of earnings season and we have other factors that are still swimming around out there, that it would likely be a surprise in some form. It's going to flip and turn things. Now we could get that again if the rest of the world is not going to have such a rosy picture of Tesla. So, they start to bring it back down rather than continue to take it up. Maybe, something comes out in the conference call that just changes people's minds and they start to bring the stock back down. It's a heavily traded stock, and the options are, priced incredibly. The volatility is pretty high. At the bell, it was almost 140, and that's what expires this Friday. So with the stock getting ready, if it were to stop right here and reopen at these levels, it could be up $10 from where it was. And there are a lot of things that can and may drive it in either direction. So back over to the S&P. If we are looking at this being A, B, and this is the C, and that's a minor 4, I'm going to remove this. Leaving this up because we're looking at that as like this is the next leg up, and I'm going to go out. Now let me see how far I can get with this. Oh, good, I can do it here. It's a very large wave 1, very large wave 1. So it really could put a lot of pressure on wave 5, or excuse me. I'm sorry, tickle in my throat. Let me open this back up again and put it back up here. What I am saying is that we're now looking at the additional. So because 0.618 would move it to a new all-time high. Now remember, 0.618 is not the most common. Most common would be equality, and that's at 56. But knowing that there's quite a bit other things that are going to upset the market or can curtail any strength in the buying, we could look at this as just as that's a 4 and that's a 1, 2, and then we get a 1, 2. And then this is part of 3, and they get a 4 and a 5, and that is leg A or 1 of minor 5. So we'd be counting minutes on the way back up. Or, if just depending on where we're looking, but that would be target again for minor. This would be target for internal third. And then that's what sits above. Now, if you're going to tell me, is this possible? I'm going to say technically, yes. But I look at the same market. I look at the same things that you all do. I look at the same thing, but I try to just keep those to the sidelines. Like, oh, can Iran really just retaliate surprisingly to have a better shot at whatever they're going to try to do to hurt Israel? Yeah, they can. Can somebody in Hezbollah? Yeah. There's all kinds of things that can happen on the geopolitical front within the Fed, which we have a meeting coming up on May the 1st. So there's still things. We have other numbers coming out this week. We have other earning reports coming out this week. So there's enough on either side that could jam it higher or take it lower. And that's why we're going to work with both sides, because if you're like me, I hate to be surprised. So back at the S&P, moving averages, 4 hour, you can see they're turning. 13 getting ready to get above the 20, and they're both going to march up and try to cross the 200, which then together will try to march up and get above the get above the 50, and then together march higher and get above the 200. So, and that would be to get up to here. And what's it going to take? Well, obviously getting up there and then surpassing it and then keep going. So the 13 would be most sensitive, but it all has to go together. And there's too many things that could stop it. So both sides. So if this is the 4, there you have it. The next resistance level actually is 51.44. And whether or not we got 1, 2, and this all comes in as a 3, we get a small 4, and then an additional, I will put up additional fibs. So these fibs are for the third wave. So we surpassed 100%, and here is the 1.618, 51.44. Now, if it was to go back down and we're still looking at a 4, rather than a third of a new run up, there are measures to where if obviously it cannot cross this line, because that is wave 1. And if this is a 4, it can't cross there, 51.91. So as it marches, it just begins to dissolve this and keeps it in a minor 4th. All right, now for tomorrow, what we have also coming out in the way of economic data. Durable goods, that's it, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, durable goods. Thursday, again, GDP, initial jobless claims, pending home sales. The big day, for what most people would feel could not be, but it's Friday, the 26th. And that's where we have PCE and consumer sentiment. Now, in terms of earnings, well, we have Meta tomorrow. And I know there are going to be others that are coming out also midweek to later in the week. So it would be on the 24th and 25th. And I know I already went over that. I told you, or I will review it again for myself. Not that one. Intel is on Thursday. And Amazon is again next week. AMD next week. AMAT way next week. Apple on the 2nd. PayPal on next week. SMCI next week. And Tesla gave today, and we had some others. Now I don't remember, but Meta and Microsoft is also on Thursday. So Meta tomorrow, Microsoft on Thursday. All right, that's going to be it. Our next update will be on Wednesday, April the 24th.